Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2006 Porsche Cayenne Turbo. Up front is a 4.5 liter twin turbocharged V8, and down below is a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this here Cayenne for two reasons. First of all, whenever someone ever offers me a twin turbo V8 car to review, I say yes without asking any more questions. Never have I once had a bad day in a twin turbo V8. But the second reason is the fact that I've never reviewed a first generation Cayenne, and I've always wanted to ever since I played the James Bond video game for GameCube, Everything or Nothing, where you got to drive a Porsche Cayenne Turbo in that game. Now, that was blatant product placement, but it seemed to have worked. Almost 20 years after its release, I am still itching to drive one. So I get to scratch that itch today, and you guys get to watch. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, zackpreddle.com, where you can buy stickers and other merchandise when it becomes available. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form. And you get a video of your car just like this one. And you could read my behind the scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that 4.5 liter V8 under the hood. Well, like I said, it is twin turbocharged, and it produces about 450 horsepower. Now, this particular car, as you might notice, there's a little red thing off to the left, has been modified and is making north of 500 horsepower, which is pretty flippin' neat. Now, this car was actually designed and given the turbo to compete with AMG vehicles, and I think it does a hefty job at that. Twin turbo V8. Woo! Now, with that tune, it sounds like there's a vacuum cleaner under the hood. Those turbos just sucking in air. I absolutely love it. Now, this car is on all-terrain tires, which does hurt the performance a little bit, but it's still fast. It just goes and goes and goes and goes, and I really, really like that. Like I said, paired to it is a 6-speed automatic transmission. This is before the PDK days, and however, it still shifts pretty quickly. I'm a big fan of it, and it works well. It also does have a 2-speed transfer case for some off-road capabilities that we'll talk about later on. Last but not least, like I said, this does have off-road capabilities, so it is 4-wheel drive. So that's stuff out of the way. Let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a bunch of gauges. Off to the far left, I have my oil temperature. Then I have my tachometer. In the center, I get a screen that is customizable, as well as my coolant temperature and fuel. And off to the right, I have my speedometer and my boost pressure measured in bar. On the steering wheel, I do have paddle shifters to the upper left and right. The Tiptronic shifters, interestingly enough. I would prefer paddles, but beggars can't be choosers. And then I have some volume options, scan options, music, those sorts of things. And these buttons are a little worn. Volkswagen and Porsche, more specifically of this era, was having some quality control issues with their interior products, and we'll talk a lot about that at the end of the video. But pretty typical to see the buttons a little worn here. Off to the left, I do have a climate control vent and my headlight switches and gauge dimmer switches. And then moving on to the door, up at the very top, I have my power mirror adjustments as well as heat, and lower on the door I have my lock and unlock and my power windows. Moving into the center, I get a giant speaker, as well as up at the very front, I do have parking sensors, along with actually behind me, up over my shoulder, you'll find more parking sensors. Very, very nice. And then I get 2 climate control vents, my heated seat options, traction control, and hazard switch, and then the infotainment system. It has since been swapped out with a more modern unit with Bluetooth and things like that. Something typical you see of vehicles of this era, because, you know, 2006 was kind of a weird middle ground when it came to audio in cars. Then I get my climate controls. These are sort of daunting to look at. They're not super straightforward. However, they feel nice, they work well, and I do get dual zone climate, which for '06 is very nice. And beyond that, I don't have any complaints. Then I do get a little cubby that slides out, and then we come to the center with the shifter. I have these weird grab handles on either side of the shifter. This car is fast, but not that fast where I'm holding on for dear life. And then we have the shifter in the center. I can plus minus if I would like. That is that Tiptronic system. And it does say Cayenne down below. I'm a big fan of that. However, nothing really interesting to report beyond that. Then I do have some buttons down below for the off-road settings. So off to the right, we have our suspension settings. So comfort, normal, and sport modes, as well as I can raise and lower the vehicle. It does have adaptive suspension. You can raise and lower it. And then off to the left, I have my low range options. So I could put it into 4 high and 4 low here and some other options as well. Very, very nice. And that does add to the off-road prowess of the Cayenne Turbo. As you'll notice, this car is made for trail use. Yeah, it has over 500 horsepower, but it's also meant for the trails. And that's nice that you get those options down below. Then we do have cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Cayenne Turbo, and you could just look at these bad boys and know that it's not gonna pass the big friggin' bottle test. Unfortunately, I was hoping that it might, but alas, it does not. Then we do get a center console and the seats. The seats are heated, they are power, and they are memory, which is all very nice. And I am pleasantly enjoying my driving experience. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats. So let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2006 Porsche Cayenne Turbo, and a couple of things to note. First of all, I do have some nice lighting, as you're seeing. This will probably turn off in a second, but I have a lot of space back here. Knee room, okay. My knees are hitting the seat in front of me, unfortunately, but not the end of the world. Headroom actually is really good. Now, the interesting thing is that the turbo model, at least this particular one, doesn't have a sunroof. I would have figured, you know, if you're getting the turbo, you're going to pay a lot of money. They normally throw in a sunroof at that price point, but I guess I don't get one here. Kind of interesting. I don't know if there's a reason for that. I do get a center console as well, some flip out storage, but no cup holders. Those are found down here. They slide out. They're also very tiny. And I do have two 12-volt outlets back here, 2 vents, and I do have heated seats, which is all very, very nice. Let's go hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so we're on the back of the Cayenne Turbo from 2006. Little power mechanism right there, and then we are in the back. You do get this nice like carpet siding, 12-volt outlet here, 12-volt outlet there. You have dual 12-volt outlets. I absolutely love that. You also get these side panels, which is pretty cool. Some nice storage options in there, and I do get a nice privacy cover that I can put like that. So really, really great stuff here in the Cayenne. You can also lift it up down here. We do get a space saver spare. Nothing too crazy there. And that's pretty much it. So very, very nice space in the back of a Porsche. I mean, for a Porsche product, it's like the most space out of anything they've ever made, because they're obviously not an SUV manufacturer full time. So yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling now. Let's go take a look at the looks. Now we gotta talk about the looks. And the front end gets a special inlets and grills and such for the turbo, but the tail lights really, really tickle my nostalgia when it comes to the original Cayenne. I love the look of this thing. I think it's sculpted really, really well. It looks exactly like how you would think a Porsche SUV from the early 2000s would look like. It looks like a 996 had too much for lunch. And I mean that in the most positive way possible. It has the striking Porsche headlights, the cracked egg headlights that enthusiasts either love or hate. I personally love. And it has all the body lines of a Porsche, and I love that a lot. But with all that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think finally driving a first-gen Cayenne, let alone the Turbo? Well, it should go without saying I really, really love this car. It's a fast twin-turbo V8. You can't really go wrong with that combo. But there are some interesting things about this particular car. First of all, like I mentioned earlier, it somewhat suffers from Volkswagen or really Porsche build quality of this era. And the reason I bring that up is because Porsche has gone on the verge of bankruptcy twice. once in the early 80s, and once again in the 90s. The 1990s, Porsche had almost no money because they sank it all into developing the 993, the last air-cooled Porsche 911. They spent all of their money on it and didn't make almost any of it back when it came time to sell them. That led to the 911 996 generation being pretty cheap. The plastics in there were pretty rough and flimsy. They had to save money where they could. But then someone at Porsche came up with the idea to start selling SUVs. And at first, that idea sounds crazy. A sports car company that has always made sports cars making a family SUV? That doesn't sound right. Well, that idea was evolved into this, the Cayenne. And the Cayenne gave Porsche a stable income. You see, these cars, not initially, but as time went on, started to sell like hotcakes. And because these sold so well, they started making the Porsche Macan. And that is the top-selling Porsche today. Porsche SUVs keep the lights on over there in Stuttgart. And so with this very SUV, the first generation Cayenne, Porsche saved themselves. And so any Porsche you see after the 996 generation, the 997, 997.2, 991, 992, you have this car to thank for that. It might not be as sexy as the Porsche 911, but it's most certainly the breadwinner. And I have to say, it's a fun breadwinner. I mean, twin turbo V8, we have a little bridge here. I mean, come on! It ain't a bad day. It's only a bad day to be a fuel molecule in that tank. But from where I'm sitting, it's a very good day. I love this thing. You know, I have so much nostalgia with these. I oogled over them even though they were on a tubed TV in my basement connected to a GameCube. I've loved it since then, and I'm very happy to say that now driving it, I've fallen even more in love. Huge thank you to Lucas for letting me take out his Cayenne Turbo. This was such a cool experience for me. Definitely a bucket list vehicle. He's been absolutely awesome. I also reviewed his Land Rover LR4 if you're a fan of the channel and have seen that. If not, you can search that out. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.